Okay, what I've pulled together today for the Vote by Design, I think I mentioned to you that we have adapted it for every single one of the different types of elections. But I think choosing one that all of us will experience pretty shortly is the best option today. So I'm going to focus on the one that is for the midterm elections, because that's probably the one that you would be using most often if you're actually going to teach this. Again, we get to that by going to the website. And going to the educators and community page, and it's the third module under fighting for the vote. There's a brief description. You go to the modules, and in this lesson, when I'm doing it in person, I bring in a ton of sticky notes and pens, and I also pre-print these questionnaires. I don't print the debate clip reactions because you won't need that in person. But depending on the languages that are in your area, there already is English, Haitian Creole, and Spanish. You can change this pretty easily into almost any language by using the Google Translate feature. If you haven't already used it, you go to the little thing that looks like a telephone keypad for My History, and Google Translate is one of those options. You, let's see, go Haitian Creole, let's do French. Okay, so I'm going to take the Haitian Creole one, copy what I want to translate, put it into that side, and automatically it comes up in the other language. You can do that with an entire section. And the whole thing is there. So again, it's quick and easy to adapt it for the group that you'll be working with. And as you could probably see, there are literally hundreds of languages that are available. Yeah. So it's very unlikely that you would not be able to do it for the people in your class. Okay, so that's just a little extra teaching tip. Anyway, you would print these out in the numbers that you need, and you'd bring them in with you. There are two sides to this, so you want to print it double-sided. The first side is what you're going to use when you're identifying what's important to you personally. And the second side is what is important to you when what you pick up when you're watching the video clips that you'll see in this one. I've put it candidate 1 and candidate 2. You can always change this to whatever candidate you're going to be seeing today. So today you're going to be seeing Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley. Sometimes that just makes it easier for the kids to put down what it is they're going to be, who it is they're going to be evaluating, and just keep the information separate. When you look at this one, you've got a couple of extra things here. Most of this information comes from Circle at Tufts University, which I mentioned, I think, the first day that we talked. Circle is an amazing resource for information about youth voters, both registrations and turnout, and you can get very specific, very targeted information. I found it even down to individual counties in the state of New Jersey when I wanted to see what the voter turnout was, like based on income level of the community or based on the racial makeup of the community. So it can just, you should just explore their data page and have some fun with it and see what's available to you. The individual elections tab has all of the types of elections that exist in New Jersey. You may have others. Sometimes people have elections for fire commissioner or I can't even think of what else, but I know there are other elections that take place, but these are the basic ones that I think you would need. And each one of them, just to show you one thing about it. The biggest difference in each one of them is the job description. So you're going to, when you choose one of these, you're going to need to be sure that things like we have the New Jersey School Boards Association website. You want to make sure that the source of the information about what school board members need to do is accurate and it actually has a source. So people can go back and look at it if they need to. Again, while we're doing so, you're going to see some things that you might need to change for your particular state. So again, there is the just agreement that you're going to use the materials appropriately. And in this lesson, there are 2 pages that are notes to the presenter. So if you're doing it individually or remotely rather, there are going to be polls again, and you can use the polls remotely by copying the link to them and then doing what we did yesterday. What's really important, because there are video clips that are essential to the workshop, is that no matter whether you're doing it in person or in remotely, you have to make sure the sound is going to play when you play those video clips. Most schools already have it set up, but you want to check it before you start presenting the lesson to make sure that when you play the video, you can actually hear the sound in the room. When you're doing it online, I can't show you this because of the way the screens are set up. But when you go to the share button, if you look to the right-hand side, you will see, on mine, it's 3 boxes. One of them says share sound. One of them says optimize for remote presentations, I think. I check those 2 boxes. And once I do that, then anytime I share my screen that day, it will be a good picture, and the audio will come through to the people on the other side. Let's say you forget, which I have done. The thing that you can do then is just stop sharing, go back, start sharing again. But before you actually share the page, look to the right, find those boxes, and put the check marks on them. Okay, Sean Gilbert, you have your hand raised. What would you like to say?
I'm not sure where those 3 dots are. Are we in the slide, or are we on your homepage?
Right now, you are in the page that shows my files.
So I'm on. So when I go look at this, I am going to be in the slideshow looking for those 3 dots.
No, I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
I'm going to stop the share and just kind of walk you through the steps that I do. Okay.
Thank you.
I want to share this slideshow with you. I go to the share button at the bottom of my screen. And when I click on that, over to the right-hand side, which you can't see now because I can't share it yet.
Yeah.
But over to the right-hand side, there are share options. One of those says share sound. One says optimize for video sharing. And one says share Zoom windows. I only check the first 2. I don't need the 3rd one for what I'm going to do. Once those boxes are checked, then I hit the share button. And then when I go through the presentation and get to those videos, you will be able to hear the sound at your end. Otherwise, you're just listening to it through my computer, and that it's very difficult to do that.
Okay.
So play with it, but that's hit the share button, check the boxes, and then share the screen. And that's why the directions are here. So they're on slide 4. Anytime there are videos in the presentation, these directions are included. So you can just go back up to the top of the slideshow and see what is there. So I've gone through the bit about who the League of Women Voters is, and so I'm going to skip that today because all of you have been here at least one other day. What I do want to make note of in Vote by Design is that the original lesson was Vote by Design for Presidential Elections. That was written by Lisa K. Solomon, who's a professor at the Stanford School of Design. After the presidential election in 2016, which is when she wrote this, when it was finished, she thought that was the end of her program. But I had found it so valuable that she and I had a couple of conference calls. And I said to her, you know, this is really good. Can we use it for energizing young voters? And she gave her permission, but she said, but it's outdated now. And I said, nothing is outdated. You know, all you need to do is update it. And we'd also like to be able to make it appropriate for other elections. So she gave us permission to use the whole thing in whatever way we wished to do it. So I want to give her credit and thank her again for that. Okay, so let's actually start this program right now. Often we talk about the role of federal representatives, so our senators and our assembly people in Washington. And I usually point out to kids too that there are different people that represent us in our state. So we have senators and assembly people that go to Washington to work at the federal level. And we have senators and assembly people at the state level who go to Trenton, in our case, to work for the laws in New Jersey that will affect us. A lot of adults don't realize that. And that's why I make the point to the kids. But today's experience is going to be about helping you gain a better understanding of what exactly is the job of your representative in Washington, D.C. And secondly, what matters to you personally when you think about who to vote for. Let's set the stage. You're going to be asked to take a little poll, and I am going to try to do it exactly the right way today. And you're going to be asked a couple of questions. The first one is going to be, how well do you think you understand the job of your representative in Washington? The second one is going to be, if you're a current voter, which all of you are, do you tend to vote for a representative based on policy issues or based on the candidate's personal traits? And when I talk with kids who aren't yet old enough to vote, I say, because you're not yet a voter, how do you think you would make your decision about who to vote for? Third, do you have clarity on the previous work experience, the leadership qualities, and the personal attributes that are important to you personally in a candidate that you want to be your representative in DC? All right, so if we're doing this in person instead of online, and I am going to stop the share right now. If we're doing it in person instead of online, I ask the kids to stand at their desks to answer those questions. There is no right, there is no wrong answer. It is just simply your personal position. And especially if we had the lesson prior to this that we had yesterday, where they had to realize that people have different beliefs, and that's okay. All right, so let's see if we can do this online with those three questions. So I just put a link in the chat. So if your chat box is open, you should be able to click on that. And then you'll see those questions and you will see the options. And I'm going to put it up on the screen for us. Okay, so this is what it should look like for you. So the first one is, how well do you think you understand the job of the elected official that we're talking about today? Do you think you know it really well? We're talking about senators and assembly people in DC. Do you think you know the job pretty well, not very well, or not at all? So make your choice there. And then secondly, if you're a current voter, do you tend to vote for a candidate based on policy issues or based on the candidate's personal traits? And your choices are only on policy, mostly on the person, or only on the person. And when I'm doing this in class, I tell them what those four options are going to be before I ask them to stand. So make your choice. And then the last question, do you have clarity on what previous work experiences, what leadership qualities, and what personal qualities are important to you in a candidate? And again, these are the four answers. You can stand up when I call the one that most reflects you. And when you're done, you can hit the submit button. So your responses have been combined with other people's. Sorry about that. That's another thing I should tell you when you're presenting remotely. And I did it yesterday and I did it the day before, but today I forgot. There is a way that you can clear the answers that the last group used so that what you see in the graph is only those people that are in the group that you're working with that day. Okay, so let's say we had all 29 people in this group. All right, so a lot of them, 27%, more than a quarter, think they understand the job pretty well, really well. Most of the people, 45%, feel they know it pretty well. But we've got a couple of people, again, just slightly under a quarter, who don't feel they know it very well, and some people who don't understand it at all. And it doesn't matter, because what we're hoping is that at the end of this lesson, you're going to have a much better idea of the answers to these questions. You're going to be in the mostly category. All right. The second one, you can see that in this case, people mostly voted on policy. We had more than 3/4 doing that. There were some people who voted mostly on the person, and one person who voted only on policy. And then the final question, do you have clarity about what you want them to have personally, as well as what kind of work experiences they should have? A small percentage of people felt they knew it very clearly. About half of them were about, quite a bit. And let's see, not a lot was almost a quarter of the people. And 17% had no clarity at all. And so that, to me, those are the people particularly who are going to gain the most from this lesson. Doesn't mean the others are not, but that's going to be the biggest, the people with the biggest change. Okay, so that's where we are starting today. All right, what actually is the job of the senator or a congressperson? I want you to remember that as a voter, what you're really doing is hiring somebody to do a job. Now, I don't know if you ever thought it framed that way, but that's really what you're doing. It's as if you're the boss and you're sitting there and you're deciding which one of those candidates that walk in for an interview is the one that you want to hire for that job because they're going to be the best. So you need to know, what are you actually hiring for? How do you describe it? In other words, what's the job description? What are the things that person is really going to have to do? What are the main responsibilities? All right, so where do we find that out? Well, when it comes to a senator or a congressperson, the place that the job description is written is in the US Constitution. It's in Article 1, Section 1. And that states that all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of the Senate and the House of Representatives. One of the things that I make a point of to the kids, because they think the president makes the laws, and I make it really clear that the president only signs something into law, but only after the Senate passes the bill, and only after the Congress passes the same bill, and it has to be exactly the same. So those are the people that are designated to create the laws that you and I need to live under. Article 1, Section 1, as I said, states that the lawmaking is the responsibility of the Senate. There are two other branches of government in the US, and the kids probably know this, but one of them is the executive, and that's the leader. In the case of the US, that's the president. In the case of the state, it would be the governor. And the other part, the other branch of government is the judiciary. So in Washington, that would be the Supreme Court. There's also a Supreme Court in your state. This is where this slide is where in person I divide up sticky note packs, and really they're just the small ones. They're like maybe 1 by 2 inches because they only have to write one thing on it each time I ask them to do it. So what I want them to do and what I want you to do right now in the chat is to write down one thing you know is a qualification, a requirement. Like, what does the Constitution say you have to have in your background in order to run to be a senator or a congressperson? And no cheating by looking it up.
I cheat. I can't believe I don't know the answer.
Let's go, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I should know, though. That's pretty bad.
No, you are certainly not alone.
All right, good. I can't wait to learn what it is.
Anybody else have something that they can put in there?
Okay, one thing that I know. Okay,
Just one thing.
let me see. What do I know? Thought I knew a lot.
I thought I knew a
Oh, I
lot.
love you people. I love you. I love you.
Mm.
I don't have a clue.
Let's see. As much as I've done this and educated people on it, come on, Annette, think.
And it's fine if you don't, because that's the purpose of this. The purpose is
Mhm.
to help you learn.
I'm going to agree with U.S. I don't know if they have to be a certain age.
Okay, so the kids now have all of these. I invite them up and I say, all right, when you've got your sticky note finished, come on up to the whiteboard and stick it on the whiteboard. And while they're doing that, I am combining the ones that are the same. So you saw a couple of people in the chat put down citizenship. So I put
Yeah.
those. And then we've got a list of the things that the kids, somebody in the class knows are qualifications. And then I show them this. So all of you who said they have to be a citizen, you're right. But
I did. It won't go up. I don't know why it won't. Come on.
Well,
Oh, there it is.
the thing that I didn't know before I changed this slideshow into the Senate and the Assembly is that you could be a naturalized citizen.
Ah,
To be an assembly person or congressperson.
okay.
To be a
Okay.
senator, you have to have been a citizen for 9 years, and Congress has to have been a citizen for 7 years. Somebody else put residency, and you're right. You have to be an inhabitant of the state that elects you. And that is sometimes a touchy subject because those people who are representing us have to live in Washington as well. And so it is a matter of where they've got a residence in both places, but where they spend their time determines how well they can represent you and communicate back with you. We happen to have a congressperson here who is not good at that. And he actually has his permanent residence in Virginia.
Right.
He is representing us here in New Jersey. Sean, what's your question?
I just wondered, is it just the president who has to, who cannot be naturalized? That
Yes.
person who runs to be president has to be born in the U.S. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay,
That's my understanding, yes. All right, and the one that somebody put down, I think, age limits. So those are the ages. To be a senator, you have to be at least 30. To be a congressman, you only have to be 25. So think about the options for some of these young people that we have who are so strongly motivated to make the world a better place. Wouldn't it be great if we can encourage them to early on begin to develop an interest in and enough knowledge and skills to be able to at least run for a representative? Most of the kids that we know that we can encourage to do that, they will run for a Board of Education position first. Can't say we've ever had anybody win, but we have had 3 of our young people run, which is quite impressive, I think. All right, so we do the same thing now with the responsibilities. So what is actually the job? What do those people who go to Washington have to do for us? And I'm going to, okay, so I see make laws, write legislation. Okay, funding for state organizations is another one. Another couple of seconds, and then I'll show you what comes up. And again, in a classroom, because the kids are only having to write one thing, and they bring it up and nobody knows what anybody else has written, they're much more likely to take some risks and say some things that they're really not sure of, but they'll give it a shot. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing again. Okay, here are the responsibilities that a congressman or a senator has. And there is one case where it's the Senate only, two cases where it's the Senate only, and one where it's the Congress. So their job is to represent you and to keep you informed about what's going on in Washington and what they're doing to make things happen the way you want them to happen. The second thing, which a number of you got, was to draft and pass legislation. A third thing is they have to serve on some kind of committee, and there are dozens of committees, and their appointments are pretty much based on seniority and interest or background, unless somebody's trying to be nasty about it. The fourth thing is that they play a part in the federal budget process, including approving spending, which is called appropriations, and approving taxes. In the past, it was totally Congress's job to do that. Currently, the president drafts the budget, and then Congress votes on the budget to approve it or disapprove both the spending and the taxes. The fifth thing is that they have to approve or reject nominations by the president. For example, members of the cabinet. For example, the Attorney General. Anybody who is going to hold a position of power within the president's cabinet needs to be approved by Congress. And the other thing that is true is that the Senate, and only the Senate, can approve treaties that are made with foreign governments, but that is their responsibility. So any treaty that the current president or any former presidents, like the Paris Peace Accord, has to be approved by the Senate if the president wants to have it approved. And then the final thing, there's a different role that the Congress plays from what the Senate plays. There are times when people in power, like the president, like Congress people, like senators, like Supreme Court judges, are not doing their job properly. And the remedy that we have in the Constitution is impeachment. And for the Supreme Court, that is the only remedy that we have. In impeachment, each branch of the legislature has a different job. Congress, because they're the closest representatives to the people, are the ones who can actually call for impeachment. But then the person being impeached has a trial. And the only people who can vote in that are the people who are in the Senate. So those are the things. First of all, I mean, they have to have everything that's on the right. So you really don't have to worry about looking at those things. They can't get to the ballot without having that been approved by boards of elections. But the responsibilities for each one of the roles or each one of the positions are what you really want to pay attention to. It's going to be different for a Board of Education member than it is for an assembly person. It's going to be different for the president than for an assembly person.
Excuse me.
So you want to make sure that when you're voting, you know what that person is going to have to do. Just as if you were a boss, you would want to be sure that you understood what the person you're hiring was going to have to do.
I think this part, that last part, Pat, was a little tricky for people when we were if we go back to when Mr. Clinton was impeached.
Mm-hmm.
And people thought, so many people that I was interacting with or heard people talking were confused. Why is he still president
Right.
if he's impeached?
Right. Right.
And they didn't understand that a person gets impeached in the House, but then
Right.
that second part about the Senate is like the trial room where they can convict or not.
Right.
And they miss that piece. So, civic engagement and understanding how things work are really crucial to people in general when they hear news or something like an impeachment's going on.
Yeah. So that's why I want my law passed here in New Jersey about juniors in high school. So one more reason you've just given me to fight for it. Good. All right.
Yeah.
This next slide is the first time that we're asking kids to begin to reflect on their own personal values. So what I'd like you to do for yourself privately, because this is personal, I want you to write down 1 or 2 words that represent qualities that you want to see in your representative in Washington. Okay, and then we go on to say, maybe you chose inspiring or innovative or fair or honest or empathetic or analytical or decisive. It doesn't really matter what you put down there because that's what's personal to you. And if you can look at yourself first and identify what you really value in a leader, that can help you imagine, before you look at the candidates, the kind of person you'd like to see in office. And then look at the candidates and try to find the person that is closest to what image you have in your own mind about who should be in that office. So there are 2 parts to this process: knowing the job and knowing what you value and what you want to see in that person. Okay, when we frame that choice around leadership qualities we personally value and not first look at the candidates, we could wind up with a different view of what matters to us. And the leadership criteria worksheet is going to help you choose what you believe is most important regarding the past experiences, the leadership qualities, and the personal attributes of the elected official, and thus help you make a better choice. Now, this is the place where those paper forms are what I would have passed out to the kids already. But here, again, I'm going to put the link in the chat and let you fill out the form yourself. And then 5 leadership qualities. And then 3 previous or personal attributes. So previous experiences, leadership qualities, and personal attributes. And then when you're done, hit submit. The kids will agonize over this because picking so few, they want everything. So picking just a couple is hard for them. So I usually give them a time limit, and I'll just mentally say 2 minutes to myself, and I'll time myself, and then I'll go on.
This was this section of the whole process was my favorite when I observed you doing this, and I can't even find it.
Easier when it's on paper, right?
For me, yes.
This is done privately because these are the things that are personally closely held values. So we don't want the kids feeling like they have to tell somebody else. You can see the choices that people have made, and because it combines itself into one chart, it's fine. You can see that most people here felt legislative experience was important, governance, and community organizing. But there are some other things too that are important. In terms of leadership qualities and values, strong communicator. I love the way that came out on top. And then integrity, fairness, and bold and visionary are the next highest ones. And then personal attributes, healthy and successful. And when you're doing this with kids, you will get young under 50. That will be right up there at the top. So, but you can see that we've kind of spread ourselves out among the other things. Right. It is not important right at this minute to know what the outcome of the poll was. The important thing is to get the kids to make their choices, because that's what they're going to have to use when they watch the videos. They're going to look at that, and then they're going to flip their paper over, and they're going to have to decide what they see in those candidates that matches what's on the other side of their paper.
Another question, Pat.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm thinking in the totality of this particular presentation where we're trying to help people have some tools for being able to choose good candidates, because we seem to not be able to do that as a society in some respects. So can we present this by itself as a module, or is it necessary that we have done some other modules?
No. Good question. No, every one of these can be done separately, independently. They're all effective that way. There are some that are more effective if you do them back to back. The 2 parts of the timeline of suffrage, for example, I think are important to do together. But and the across the divide, doing both the listening and the speaking together makes it more powerful. But anything can be done separately. You can do the listening experience without doing the speaking.
Pat, I wanted to ask you on the personal attributes. I checked other and put in what I want.
Perfect.
If they do that, because I didn't see it on the scale when you put it up. Just if they do that, will it be noted?
No, actually, Annette, I wouldn't use those bar graphs with the kids at all.
Oh, okay.
It's more important that what they're looking at is themselves. What do they personally value?
What they personally, yes.
Right.
Yes,
so when you put down something that wasn't on that chart, that's what you personally value, and that's what you're going to look for.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you have those 2 things in your head, what the job description is and what is really critical to you, we're going to give you a challenge. You're going to watch some video clips from some past debates for a person who was going to go to Washington from a state that is not our state. And if you're using this and you happen to live in Missouri, you're going to want to change the 2 video clips to people from another state, because you don't want it to become a political thing. Even though these are candidates from the past, anything that could be that close to a person could raise hackles and say, oh, you're being partisan, that kind of thing. We don't want that. So you're going to be watching past debate, and this one happens to be between Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley in Missouri. While you're doing that, what you're going to be doing is looking at that list of characteristics that you just came up with that was important to you. And this is why the paper really works better. And then when you're finished listening and watching, you're going to turn the paper over and you're going to answer the questions on the other side based on your personal values and based on what you see the job description is for an assembly person or a senator. These are the things you're going to be asked. You want to watch how the candidates present themselves as a leader, and you want to watch their body language as well as their words. Second thing you're looking for is what's the same and what's different from what you checked on your paper. And then the third thing is going to be what surprises you? What didn't you think about ahead of time? All right. All right. Candidates that run for office spend a lot of time preparing for things like debates. Now, you don't only want to make your decision based on what you see in a debate on television, but it is a way for you to see that person in real time and with saying what they really want you to remember about them. So here are the two people. These are the closing statements from a televised debate. I think it was in 2016. So the first one is Claire McCaskill.
Yes. I have traveled the state I loved and I've listened. And, we have a lot of differences, but there's so many things Missourians agree on. Campaigns are a time that we highlight differences. But I think they should also be a time that voters take a hard look at which candidate can do more than criticize their opponent. Who can actually find common ground? I'm very proud of what I've gotten done in the Senate. Tonight on my website, clairemccaskill.com, you can find 100 accomplishments that I have gotten across the finish line for Missourians. I did that by working across the aisle, listening and, yes, sometimes compromising. Whether it's veterans benefits or bringing down the cost of prescription drugs, I will work with anyone, anytime to make things better. Can I be pushy? Yes. Obnoxious sometimes? Yeah, maybe. But I will roll up my sleeves, be independent, and work as hard as I know how for the families of Missouri all day.
Okay, see if you can finish up. All right, and now we're going to listen to Josh Hawley. Same questions.
Hawley.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for having us tonight. I just want to say that I respect Senator McCaskill's service. As I said earlier, I respect her years of service to the state and to this country. But the truth of the matter is, it's just not working anymore. Senator McCaskill's been in politics for 36 years. She's been in Washington for 12 years. And over that time, she has become a party line politician. She said that she'd be independent. She said that she would be bipartisan, but she hasn't been. Whether it's border security or health care, whether it's putting pro-Constitution judges on the bench, every priority that this state has said is at the top of their list, whether it was 2016 or earlier, Senator McCaskill has voted against. And here's what I think we need. It's time we had someone in Washington who wasn't part of the old battles, who doesn't owe anything to anybody, but who is going to go and represent the people of this state, who will stand with the people of this state every single time, who's proud of our way of life, who knows it, who loves it, and who will represent it. And I ask for your vote.
Thank you.
Questions. So based on what you just saw with Josh Hawley, how did he show you that he'd be a good leader? What's the same and what's different from what you checked on your paper? And did anything surprise you? Okay, but remember the job description.
Okay. Okay.
And remember what you personally valued. That's legitimate.
Well,
Okay, another couple of seconds. And now the hard part.
Okay. Oh, do it again?
No, I want you to look at those two people, and I will guarantee you that nobody's perfect. There's never going to be a perfect candidate. But of those two people, which one is closer to what you said on the other side of the paper? You don't have to tell us. Just circle the person's name somewhere.
Oh, where's their name?
No, you're going to have to write it down.
Oh, write it in? Oh, God.
No, you don't have to write it in the chat, Annette. This is for yourself.
Oh, just for
It's
myself.
just like voting. You're voting in private.
Yeah.
But this time you're voting having thought first about the job description and first about what you personally valued. And probably Missouri's not the best thing because most of us do know those two candidates well. So I'm going to look for some other candidates because you brought a point up that the kids don't know them. But if we're working with adults, they're going to know.
Yeah.
And I have used this with adults, by the way. I've gone to like AAUW meetings and in front of a small group of people that belong to a Democratic organization where their eyes were opened as well. And it wasn't about this. It was about the Board of Education elections. So that's the message that we're giving the kids here is that there is no perfect candidate.
No.
But somebody, one of those two people has to be closer to what you put on the paper than
Yeah.
somebody else. And that's the person that you should vote for. And
Mhm.
what you need to do then is to stay aware and alert of what they're doing for you, because remember, they're supposed to be representing you. And then you can put pressure on them. Yesterday when we worked, you know how to contact your representatives, and you know that you can write them a letter or write them an email, and you can, make some noise if you don't like what's going on.
Mhm.
So that's the purpose of that part. All right. Again, we've got the Ad Fontes Media information here because Sean, was it you yesterday who said, where do people get information? So we include that in this slideshow as well. But in addition, we've got a couple of other sources because around voting, there are other places where you can get accurate and unbiased information about candidates. We obviously know about Vote 411. But Ballotpedia is another simple ballot lookup tool where you can get information about your candidates based on your address. And then they will have links that will lead you to like a Wikipedia page or have links to their Facebook and their Instagram pages so you can get information that they've put out there, just like the Vote 411 does. And it can help you flesh out what you know about the candidates. Ballot Ready is newer, but it too is a good resource for candidates at all levels. And what Ballot Ready does is aggregates information. So it looks at the candidate's website, it looks at their social media accounts, it looks at who's endorsed them, who's given them money. It looks at what the Board of Elections has on their site about the candidates, and then it puts that all together on the Ballot Ready site. If there's no information about a candidate, it means that the information that was available online didn't meet their research criteria, and so it wasn't included. So that's different from what Vote 411 has, where there may not be something from a candidate on our website, but that doesn't mean that it's because we don't approve or we don't think that what they're putting out there is legitimate. It's because they did not respond. So that's a difference that you can be aware of.
I'm sorry, Pat, but would you mind talking again about Ballot Ready? Because this is new to me.
Yeah, it is new. It's new to everybody.
Okay.
It comes from the Civics Center, which is a national organization that has partnered with us for youth voter registration. They promote student-led voter registrations in high schools, and that's their target group. But they also have this Ballot Ready form or website. In fact, let me just open it up. All right, so again, you put your address in and then you can research your ballot. You can also, as a kid, register to vote, find your polling place, and see who represents you. So.
Great resource.
All right, and there they all are listed down the side. So here's Andy Kim. You can learn more about him, and you can see that the links are there. So they got
Sorry, Pat. Like for Mr. Kim here, does he populate his site? Is that how is it similar to like how Vote 111 gets?
No, it is the people at the Civic Center do the research ahead of time to make sure that it is first legitimate. And then who's the guy in Long Island that made up all the stuff about himself?
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, anyway, so they would vet some of that stuff. Now, whether they would have picked him up or not, I don't know, because he was pretty good at hiding it. But the things that are here are like his Facebook page, his Instagram page. And then you can read and you can do your own analysis.
What about finances?
I don't know if that's on this.
You mean like who contributes to the?
Yeah, who
Yes.
contributes.
Wikipedia.
That is available through one of the websites, and I can't remember which one.
One of them I know is Ballotpedia will do that, and then there's a second one that's it's not coming to my mind either right now, Barbara. That was here in California, Ballotpedia is one that it's another step a voter has to do when they want to know the money.
Right. If somebody, I mean, if you, Sean, or anybody else comes up with another site that would do that, please let us know so we can add it to this. Okay, the next two slides I just stole last night. These came from the Colorado Energizing Young Voters group. They found additional resources that they felt would help kids utilize social media more effectively. So I've added those slides now, and I will see how they work out when, personally, and but I'm going to leave them in there so other people can check in on them too. And then they encourage the kids to hold a ballot party and to share what they've learned. So they don't have to all look up everything. They share, each person may look up one candidate and then they share that with the other kids in their group. And then they're a vote by mail state, so they can have a party and they do the vote by mail together and they drop it in the drop box together. Okay, at this point, the major part of the lesson is finished. So we ask the kids to reflect. How does knowing the job description of an elected official help us make better decisions when voting? And there's a brief discussion. Secondly, how does identifying the personal qualities we value help us become more deliberate decision makers? And then lastly, how can we feel more confident that the information we're hearing about a candidate is reliable? So those are the things that you would ask. Now, when I asked you to pick out your perfect leader or to design your perfect leader, there's a follow-up activity that you can do if you've got a 80-minute class period, or you can leave with the teacher to do, or you can just leave off. But it's another thing that helps the kids understand that there's no perfect leader. So you would take those sheets that you had and you put the kids into small groups, 3, 4, any more than that, and it gets too complicated because there are too many ideas floating around. So 3 or 4 is really ideal. The job in the group is that every person, you go around the circle, every person shares what they said were their personally felt characteristics of a good leader. They talk about what's different among them, and then they have to collaborate and they have to be willing to negotiate and compromise to create a snapshot ideal leader that has just 3 previous experiences, 5 leadership qualities, and 3 personal qualities. So there's a lot of give and take that has to go on, and they have to have a time limit on that. When the time is up, and it takes about 5 minutes, and they won't be finished, but it still takes about 5 minutes of the class time. When they're finished, the spokesperson for the group has to read what they came up with as the person's bio. And then if there's time, you can have the kids talk a little bit about how it felt to try to have to do that, try to have to give up some of the things they felt were important in order to accommodate somebody else. So that's all part of the process of deciding on a candidate that when you don't like either one of them, but one of them is going to be elected, and you better make sure it's the one that's closer to what you want than not. And then we put in the same group, we say, okay, so now that perfect leader was elected, but that's not where the job ends. Now the challenges start. There's a crisis, and now you're close to perfect leader. You need to think, this is kind of like a simulation. So they've been in office for 9 months, long enough so that they are getting settled and they've started to show their leadership style, but not so long that they have an established track record. So when the crisis faces them, they're going to have to show their leadership for the first time in a serious situation. So they're going to have another 5 minutes. Once they'll pick one of the 4 crises that are here, and then they've got to write the opening lines of a press conference. What would they say to reflect the fact that they are an effective leader who can manage this crisis? It's intriguing to watch them do it. So here's crisis 1. And these crises were developed by kids. And they did this in 2018 or 19. So it was before COVID. But the first crisis, water becomes undrinkable because of a devastating infrastructure compromise. The second one, a foreign nation has hacked into highly protected portion of Department of Defense server, kind of like Doge going into all of the departments in the executive branch and getting all the data. Third, this one was crazy when COVID came out. The nation reached herd. It was not herd immunity initially, but it was the nation is facing a crisis of a pandemic coming in. And it was not only transmitted easily, but it was deadly. And there were no current vaccines for it. And then fourth, wildfires erupted because of climate change. It's threatening people and homes and wildlife. So they have a couple of seconds to pick their crisis, and then they have to get to work on the press conference.
Pretty visionary.
It's really fun. It's really challenging to the kids, but it's also really fun. And then this is the exit ticket again. So think for yourself. Before you started this, what is something that has changed in you? What did you think before you began, and what's a new learning or a new understanding that you have at this point in time? What's something new to you of that?
I feel confident about the process. I really liked today's process of first looking at what the job description is for a candidate, and then going to that personal place, and then stepping back and trying to think about who's running and how they might do the job, fulfill the requirements of the Constitution's description for whatever role, and then how that my values are aligned with that candidate. And I think this is so helpful. I feel really like for the first time that sense of order makes so much more sense in my own mind that I could then share that with young people. So that is my biggest takeaway today up to now. And the other thing that I was really happy when you said all of the modules could be presented as standalones, because I just met with a community college outreach person yesterday, and the AS, their student government, they're trying to really get them much more involved in voter registration. And some of what you shared today, I think, is critical to helping them understand what they can share with other young people when they're talking to them about voting, because it's just really, you've got it filtered to such a nice, simple way of keeping it here and then being able to share it.
And this is Meg. I think that you've done a fantastic job of keeping it nonpartisan and having us really in the gut feel what that means if we were a participant in this. So
Thank you.
And Pat, I want to tell you, it's not only the students who, the future generation, we definitely want to educate, but the community that I work with have no knowledge, almost none. And every week that I work with them, you realize how much they don't know. And if possible, to educate them on this, because the only thing they see is the negativity. They don't do nothing for you. Don't mean nothing. Voting me, no. So thank you, because it helped me think about things like, what is my senator? What are all their duties? I know certain ones because of what it affects and things I do, but there's other things that because it doesn't affect me, I don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. You've given me such positive feedback. I'm just grinning on the inside as well as the outside. So thank you. All right. The second thing that we are going to do today is to look at the Student Advocate Toolkit. Again, we get to this. Let me see if I can make it bigger. We get to this through the website, and it is the last thing on the voting side. There's no module list here. You just go directly to the Student Voting Advocate Toolkit. When you open it up, you again will see the three different things. Now, in the toolkit, the excuses game is mentioned that we did back in the Truth About Turnout. So there's a folder here again with that information in it. New Jersey has a Spanish version. And the English version has been adapted for every single county in the state, because every single county in our state, if those of you in other states are going to shake your head, we all have different voting machines in every single county. The county gets to pick their own. So we've adapted it for every single county. But I'm going to, oh, and also there is a template here. So that if you're in New Jersey and you want to make it your own, all you need to do is to go to each one of the pages and you can see what needs to be fixed. If I can get down to the notes, there are notes on each page that does have something that needs to be fixed, but there are some pages where there is nothing. There are no speaker's notes, so you can just use that for yourself with no problem. But I want to go to the other states because we have a number of people from other states here. Colorado and Arizona have both done it for their own state and changed it to include the voting laws that are appropriate for them. But it's still set up the same way. As you can see, it looks like there are chapter headings here. And that's exactly what it is, because each one of those has the information specifically about like registering to vote here, and for them, what kind of elections are there, and why it's important to vote. Colorado's has a different template, which I think is very clean and clear. And they also have those pages. It doesn't stand out as much in theirs, but why is voting important? What they need to know about primaries. How do you register to vote? Doing research to make your decision. How do you use the paper ballot? How do you vote in person? How do you track your ballot? So you can see from this that there are changes that you can make, but you can include things that we don't have in ours in New Jersey, as well as remove things that aren't what you think is important for you to use with the kids. The nice thing, I'm going to go back to New Jersey for a second. If you take a look at ours, you'll see that there's a QR code on it. When we go in and we work with kids, they can take a picture of the QR code, and then on their phone, they can actually save it. And I'm going to walk through it for myself while I'm doing it so I give you the right information. Right. Once they see it on their phone in the upper right-hand corner on an iPhone, there are 3 dots. And at the bottom, there are 2 things. One says available offline, and there's a slider. And if you push it to the right or you touch it and it's available offline, it means that it is saved on your phone. And they can turn to that anytime somebody has a question about what that matches what is in the toolkit. So I'm going to show you a couple of things about New Jersey's. We now have a table of contents in the front of it, which I think is helpful because then you know in one slide what images or what sections you're going to have. And as I said, we have an enlarged section on primaries. We have a semi-open primary in New Jersey, which can be pretty confusing to people. So there's a pretty long section on primary elections there. And we also, I don't see it now, but we also have a recorded version of that, which we've put out to all of the teachers in the state prior to the last primary election, which was in June, because we have a governor's election coming up in November. So teachers had that available that they could use with their class, and it was very succinct, very clear. And we have a section on the new law that is going into effect that will affect kids. But then the same sort of thing, registering to vote, making a plan, how to vote by mail, how to vote in person, and we have early voting now, finally, how to track your ballot. And then we've put in a calendar, and we have one person on our local league who updates this calendar for every election. Now, this is for the primary election that was just held, but once the dates are confirmed by our Board of Elections, then one person goes in and just changes those dates. And I have an intern who then copies them to all of the other counties. All right, so that's the framework. But what I want to do, because I've never done it, and I think it would be more interesting to you too, is to use Colorado's and see what that looks like when you're using it. So what they do and what we do is use the toolkit with the kids first and then get them to download it to their phones. So they've already experienced it themselves and they know what's in it and they know what to share. Colorado also uses the QR code. All right, so the big ideas, you want to register, you want to do your research, and then you want to vote. Why is voting important? They use the slide from our Truth About Turnout to show voting by age. And then who's got the power? And then the excuses game. And that's why the excuses folder is there. They have a section on primary elections. The different levels of government. That's the one, you know, kids, one of the things that Circle has discovered about kids is that they are issue voters. They are not party voters. And so if you can help them focus on what their personal issues are and help them look at the candidates and determine what the candidates' positions are on the issues they care about, that can help them make a better decision about who they want to vote for. How do you prepare? Registering to vote. What you need. How you submit it. Decision making. How do you find out if your vote was received? How do you choose a candidate? Oh, the second one is one of the things that I think is a real strength of both 411 and the league in general is the like candidate forums or candidate debates. Those things are available on the websites of the local leagues, and I think they're helpful in making decisions, especially about more local candidates. And this is about the research that you should do. Maybe I should include that in that thing too. Here's the digital information one.
Yeah, that last one looked good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's a video. Yep.
Voter service and polling centers provide valuable services for Boulder.
Okay, so you can include something like a video. We have one for voting by mail because voting by mail was thrust on us during COVID and nobody knew how to do it. So there is video, and there are some really good videos on the Boards of Elections website, and they are open access, so you can use those without worrying about copyrights. They decided they used to have a big page like we did with all of the votes, the dates on it, and they've decided now just to put the link because that way they don't have to worry about updating it for each election. So that's something you might want to consider too. And that's just what do you do when.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for theirs.
Two questions. The first is, you indicated that when the student uses a QR code and downloads it onto their phone, then they have to slide something to make it offline.
Right.
Okay. Second question, whenever anyone is going on to the Energizing Young Voters, Educators and Community and looking at our modules, before any customization is made, everyone needs to download and make a copy. Review that, please.
Yeah. Actually, you can't do it any other way. We often get requests to allow editing on our copies, but when you go to the website and you open any of the modules and you want to use it, you go to the upper left-hand side and you make a copy. So it's under the File tab. You scroll down, you make a copy, and then that's the one that you will store on your server or your phone or your laptop, whatever you're using. You can then edit that in any way, shape, or form that you want. If you do write to us and say, can we have editing rights? We're going to say very gently, no, we can't do that because we learned the hard way that doing that means that whatever changes you make show up on the website. So,
Thank you.
So fortunately, there is a version history tab on the docs website, and we are able to we were able to get the original one back and put that back on the website. So you do have to make your own copy. but that's easy. So, any other questions about any of the things? Anything that you are looking forward to doing? Do you think you'll use the Student Advocate Toolkit? Is there a role for it in your area or not? Oh, Fran again. Go ahead.
Yeah. You made a comment how teachers use the Student Advocate Toolkit. So they're using it as a learning method.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. And are they doing it by itself, all alone? Just to,
It's hard to know that because I'm not in the classroom with them, but there is a law in New Jersey, as you know, Fran, that requires every school district to provide the opportunity for voter registration to any eligible student and voter education. And so that's a quick and easy way for teachers to give kids the information they need in order to be able to vote.
oh, thank you.
We would like them to use everything.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't always happen.
Okay.
Okay, if there is no other question, you're going to get out of school early today.